Let Garmin show you how to install the spy pole gunnel mount to the deck of your boat. For this process, you will need a power drill, 9mm drill bit, 5mm and 1/4" hex bit or wrench, a 10mm and 13mm wrench or socket, and if you plan to flush mount the mount base, you will need a 70mm hole saw. Slide the horizontal tube assembly through the horizontal hole in the tube connector with the rubber grommet. Rotate the horizontal tube where no white lines are facing upwards. Place the horizontal tube into the indentation in the spy pole bracket. Align the screw holes on the spy pole bracket with the indentations in the horizontal tube. Ensure no white lines are facing upwards. Place the clamps over the horizontal tube. Insert the hex screws through the clamps and into the spy pole bracket. Tighten the clamps using the 5mm hex bit driver. Flip over the assembly and make sure the top white line in the horizontal tube is aligned with the vertical notch in the spy pole bracket. Locate the vertical tube and hold it upright with the 2 locking pins at the bottom. Locate the tube connector bracket and orient it so the Garmin logo is facing up. Slide the vertical tube up through the vertical hole in the bottom of the tube connector bracket. Next, we will attach safety stop bolts to the vertical and horizontal tubes. Feed one bolt through the 2 holes at the very top of the vertical tube and place a nut on the end. Tighten the nut with a 5mm hex wrench and 10mm socket or wrench. Feed the other bolt through the 2 holes on the opposite side of the spy pole bracket and place the nut on the end. Tighten the nut with a 5mm hex wrench and 10mm socket or wrench. Place a rubber cap on the end of each tube. Firmly press down on the edges of each cap with your hand or the back of a wrench to fully seat each cap onto the tubes. Now, we will install the quick release levers. Each tube on the spy pole mount includes a quick release lever that allows you to easily adjust the position of the mount without using tools. First, place one of the included washers on the lever. Slide the lever through the hole in the tube connector. Place the other washer and nut on the end of the lever. Tighten the nut by holding the lever in place. Repeat this process with the vertical tube quick release lever. Now we will install the mount base on the gunnel. There are 2 different mounting methods for the spy pole mount base: flush mounting and deck mounting. We will cover both in this video. Flush mounting the gunnel mount will require to drill a 70mm hole on the deck of the boat. This allows the mount to be flat with the deck of the boat when the spy pole is removed. Deck mounting the gunnel mount will require removing the 6 hex bit screws on the base of the mount. You will also need to flip the 2 bushings. This method eliminates the need to cut the 70mm hole in the center of the mount base. First, we will flush mount the spy pole. Use the mount as a template on the flat surface you plan to install the mount base on. Mark the location in the center of the larger hole for the recessed pole support. Cut the large hole using the 70mm hole saw. Place the mount base on the surface so the protrusion fits snugly. Ensure the mount base is flush against the surface. Mark the 4 pass-through holes on the mount base. Remove the base and drill the 4 pass-through holes using the 9mm drill bit. Place the base back into the hole. Align the hole on the base with the pass-through holes. Place a bolt into each corner of the base. Place a washer and nut on each bolt on the back side of the mount. Tighten the nut on each bolt using a 1/4 inch hex wrench and 13mm wrench or socket. Ensure the mount base is flush and secure on the deck. Deck mounting the spy pole requires you switch the 2 bushings on the spy pole base mount. First, remove the 3 screws on each side of the base using a 3mm hex bit driver. Then, remove the 2 bushings and switch them on the base. Align each bushing in the base. Tighten the 2 bushings using a 3mm hex bit driver. Now, place the base on the deck of the boat. Then, mark the 4 pass-through holes. Remove the base and drill the 4 marked pass-through holes using a 9mm drill bit. Align the base over the 4 pass-through holes. Place a bolt into each corner of the base. Place a washer and nut on each bolt on the back side of the mount. Tighten the nut on each bolt using a 1/4 inch hex wrench and 13mm wrench or socket. Ensure the mount base is flush and secure on the deck. Now, you can place the spy pole bracket into the base. Align the notches on the bottom of the vertical tube with the hole in the base. Press the tube down into the base until the 2 clips lock into place. Press in on the 2 pins at the bottom of the vertical tube and pull the assembly out of the base to remove the gunnel mount. You can adjust the gunnel mount's vertical and horizontal tubes using the quick release levers. Unlatch the quick release lever securing the vertical or horizontal tube. Adjust the gunnel mount to the preferred height and angle. Then, relatch each quick release lever. The spy pole gunnel mount also includes 2 security pins that can be stored in the tube connector bracket when not in use. These pins can be used to lock the gunnel mount at a certain height or lock the spy pole out of the water. First, unlatch the vertical quick release lever and move the mount to a preferred height. Align the hole in the tube connector bracket with one of the holes in the vertical tube and relatch the quick release lever. Pull one of the security pins out of the tube connector bracket and push it through the holes until it sticks out the other side of the vertical tube. Pull the second security pin out of the tube connector bracket and push it through the holes until it sticks out of the other side of the horizontal tube. Now, we will attach the spy pole to the gunnel mount. Line the 3 pegs on the bottom of the spy pole housing with the 3 holes on the bracket. Press the spy pole into the bracket until you hear a click. Lift the release latch on the spy pole and lift up to remove it from the bracket. And that's it. Thanks for watching. For more help, please subscribe to our Garmin Support YouTube channel or visit marinesupport.garmin.com.